Damn, you can do that stuff on here now. Wow. I didn't know you could do this. Wow. This is interesting. Peace, man. I ain't know you could do all of this on YouTube now. Wow. This is very interesting. I haven't been on live in man long. This is crazy. Let me see. Okay, I'm behind. I got the tree behind me now. What's up, y'all? Damn, I didn't know you could send gifts. You could do all of these things on YouTube. This is man interesting. Damn, I haven't been on here in a minute. You could start a poll here. Look at YouTube trying to keep up. This is interesting. Okay, let me get this off. How do I take this off? No, how do I? Alright, this is how I take it off. What's up, man? How y'all doing out there? I should probably start a poll. Okay, I should. Um, so apparently people be just like TikTok. They treat this like TikTok. That's pretty interesting. Who watching this right now? State yourself. State your name. What's up, man? How y'all doing? See, y'all should be reading, man. See, a lot of y'all be on the internet just to be on the internet, wasting your time. You know, not learning something new, a new skill, a new trade, whatever, right? Like, that just be straight up wasting your time, man. You know, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Be mindful of five things before five things overcome you." He said, "Be mindful of your youthfulness before your old age." He said, "Be mindful of your good health before your sickness. Be mindful of your free time before you're preoccupied." He said, what else he said? Be mindful of your richness before your poorness. And then he said, be mindful of your life before your death. Now, as far as mind control, you know, during World War II, the United States was one of the last countries that got involved in the war. But I would say they benefited the most because they stole a lot of stuff from Germany, right? A lot of the drugs that we got here in America today are German, right? A lot of the scientists, we took some of their scientists with us. Um, Today America has a lot of air superiority because they stole a lot. Look, Germany was the ones that used to have it back then, right? And so America stole a lot of stuff from Germany after the war. So if you look at a lot of our drugs, MDMA, LSD, other drugs, they are, uh, they are a lot of the drugs we have here. Um, Nobody said anything about Hitler. See, you're a little slow. You told me to speak about mind control, and you're not even patient enough to let me get to that. See, this is the problem with a lot of people in society. Y'all don't have no patience. So anyway, the reason I was bringing up Germany is because the whole concept, they were working on something about mind control, right? Since you want to rush this whole thing, I got a shirt on. They wanted. So, are you familiar with MK Ultra? So, you know, they stole a lot. Like I said, they stole a lot of things from Germany, and one of the things that they were working on was mind control, right? Um, and in some of the ways that we are being controlled is through the television. You get what I'm saying? You see that book I got up there? It's called Propaganda, by Edward Bernays, right? And one of the ways that we are controlled, um, one of the ways that we are controlled is through television, through media, right? Uh, six countries, I mean six countries. All of our media outlets are owned by six companies. I will let you figure out who those companies are and what ethnic group they belong to. I'm gonna let you figure it out. If you read between the lines. But anyway, yeah, mind control, man. It's a real thing. They got books on hypnosis. I also have a book up there. I don't think you can't really see it. It's called Psycho Cybernetics. I do read, man. You don't gotta hate. I be reading. That's why I stay afloat. I'm smart. Get what I'm saying? Um, Knowledge is power, man. A lot of y'all don't read. You gotta stay educated. I stay buying books. I stay in the know. You know, got to be educated. Got to educate myself. You got to seek knowledge on your own. Cause out here in society, if you just listen to the information that they give you to read, you ain't really gonna get much, right? You're gonna be indoctrinated, which is what's happening today at these college universities. They just indoctrinating you to control you. That's really what they're doing. Which is why I don't watch the media. I mean the media. I don't watch television. See, television, what does television have? What do television have? Television have programming. Okay? What are they programming? They programming your brain, man. And a lot of us is too dumb to even see it. You know, you want to deprogram your brain? I got a book for you to read. I got a book for you to read, my brother. You know what? I should be coming on live more frequently and kind of like give people tips on books they should read. You know, because a lot of you dudes is ignorant out there. A lot of you dudes is ignorant. And these are the people that are in the internet. A lot of the people transmitting information on the internet are ignorant people. Now I know, bro. I know. But look, bro, there's a book. I appreciate it. There's a book that you can't even see it. It's called Psycho Cybernetics. Okay. Let me see how I can put it in there. It's called Psycho Cybernetics. Uh, Here you go. It's called Psycho Cybernetics, and the book is basically about teaching you How to reprogram your brain. That's what the book is about. Psycho-cybernetics. Everybody should go out there and get that. You know, a lot of us been brainwashed, right? The book, it talks about the self-image. Um, Learn how to use your positive past, set and achieve worldwide goals, develop compassion, self-respect, and forgiveness, cultivate the power of rational thinking, discover a key to a happier, more successful life. The book basically was saying that if you have the mentality of a victim, then it's going to be hard for you to overcome obstacles, right? There's a lot of people out there in society who have this mindset of a victim, you know? They have this mindset that somebody's oppressing them out there, right? That's the mentality that they have, which is a crippling mindset when you constantly think that you are not where you're supposed to be because there's somebody holding you back, right? There's a lot of people out there that have that mindset. They're constantly out there blaming somebody for their own mistakes, which is why I have a big problem with the black community. This is not a black hater trope video. This is just me being real. There's a lot of black folks out there. It's hard for them to succeed because their mindset has been trapped. They believe they can achieve, and anytime somebody tries to bring them something, nah, it's not just folks in general. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. It's not just folks in general. Some people have it way worse than others. And I want to highlight black folks, right? Um, they really have this thing about how enslaved mentally they are. Because as the shackles was being freed off the body, they were being placed on the head. So today, and it's the same thing. You're going to notice these things. You're going to notice these things, especially amongst marginalized groups. This is why I'm trying to teach you something, Asha. It's not everybody. It's mainly around marginalized groups. People who have been subjected to violence constantly. People who have been subjected to prejudice. People who have been subjected to trauma and all of these things, right? So they have internalized, the more you study, the more you read, the more you will figure things out for yourself. See, I learned to not speak. One thing in life, when I was in prison, the 7 years, when I was in prison, when I was younger, I used to be somebody that used to just run my mouth without really knowing what I was talking about, right? Until one day, this brother asked me, like, where did I get the information that I was displaying? Where did I get it, right? Whatever I was saying out my mouth, he asked me, where did you get that from? And he asked me, where did I read it or where did I get it, something like that. And when I couldn't answer the question, he told me, if you don't know what you're talking about, shut up. And I could have took that the wrong way. I could have took that like, why you talking to me like that? And I could have took it as disrespect, but I didn't. I was like, you know what? I appreciate that. I appreciated that that brother corrected me. And ever since that brother told me, if I don't know what I'm talking about, shut up, I never spoke about something unless I knew what I was talking about. So I appreciate him to this day because I still remember him. And this happened when I was like 19 years old. No, I was like 20. No, I was like, yeah, like 20, 21, right? So I learned this valuable lesson of like, before I speak about something, if I don't know about something, I just be like, I don't really know. But anyway, back to people who make excuses and have internalized their oppression, right? For example, I'll give you an example of that. See, some black folks, they love to cry oppression. They love to cry, not oppression, racism, right? But you know what the truth is? Sometimes, sometimes just because you didn't get hired, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were being racist at the company. Sometimes it just means you wasn't qualified. But because people love to automatically assume that the reason, they always think negative, right? That's the internalization. So they're quick to think, oh, the reason I didn't get the job is because they mad racist over there. When in reality, it could just be like, yo, you just didn't qualify. But instead of looking inward, they love to look outward. They love to blame. They love to complain. They love to do all of these things, right? When in reality, you know, it could be a defect that we had. Okay, this is a good question. What perpetuates the cycle? What would it take to override it? Exactly, Polo Kid. They try to look for a scapegoat. You know why? Because it's hard for some people to look within themselves and admit that, like, I need to be better. Like, and it doesn't, and it's okay. Like, we all could get stronger. We all can be better. Like, we all have areas of ourselves that can improve, that we can work on. And it's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why people feel less than if they feel like I'm just not good at this. And maybe this is not the job you should be having. Maybe you should seek something else that you're really good at, right? But sometimes what we're really good at might not really bring the money that we need, right? So sometimes you just got to think more and figure out, how do I get the funds for whatever I'm passionate about, right? And it's just hard work, right? And some people want the quick response thing. So back to your question, Asha, right? I got this book right here. Hold on, let me see if you can see it. Oh, I changed the camera, but you can't really cause I got this thing. Hold on, let me see something real quick. Um Real quick, sorry. So I got this book right here. It's called Psycho Cybernetics, right? This is a great book. I kid you not. This book changed my life, right? And basically what the book was really highlighting, it was how your brain is a computer. Well, the computer was designed after your brain, right? Um, because your brain is like a computer. That's how it operates. And it was saying that the same way that a virus can corrupt a computer is the same way that a virus can corrupt your brain, right? Um, so I say that to say this. I also have another book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. But anyway, I don't want to talk about this. But I wanna hold on. I wanna highlight some books that I think. Hold on, I got some books. I got a few books that I think. So back to your question of how do we override it, right? I would say this. I would say that we have to do deep work on our brain, right? Like, and this is why they work so hard to program our minds, right? Like, think about it. The education system has been they get us at a very young age. They get us when we are very young, very impressionable. They've been programming our brains since we are what? So when you start Head Start, you start Head Start like 3 years old, 4 years old. They've been programming our minds. Can you imagine you being programmed for all those years until you get to college and you still continuing to be programmed, right? Because our parents didn't have the time to educate us at home, or they didn't have the time to teach us about self, or teach us what they should have taught us, because that should be our first school, right? Our parents should be our first teachers. So the problem is, you have to change your ideology. Malcolm X spoke about this, right? You have to change your philosophy. He says the first thing that you do is you change your ideology. Stop taking the ideas from them. We're taking ideas from their philosophers. And I'm not saying that they don't have good things to offer. What I'm saying is when you constantly just take where people tell you to take from, then in some way, somehow, they kind of got control over you, right? So again, back to the television. What does the television have? Programming. What do you think a curriculum is? A curriculum is programming, right? Um, Anything outside of STEM in school, the sciences, the mathematics, and all of those things, right? Programming. Even the science, some of the sciences, right? If it's not like just regular biology, and even with some of those things, right? If it's not math, so certain things, it's like you got to be real careful with what you're getting your information from. But Malcolm X said this a long time ago. He said you have to change your ideology, your ideas about the world, your people, the society you live in. You have to change your ideas, right? Because once you change your ideas, then your attitude will change. Yes, since before that, they started with our parents. But I would say this: some of our parents, you got to remember, at some point, depending on where you're from, if you are black, American black, your parents went to school at some point in segregation. So they have a different knowledge than the knowledge when they adapted the new curriculum in the 80s or in the 70s, right? So the knowledge that some of our parents have is different. Walaikum salam. So the knowledge that some of our parents have is way different than the knowledge that we're receiving. That's one, right? So they have a whole different understanding of the world because they went to different schools, right? Um, Two, if your parents are from the Caribbeans or are from Africa or are from somewhere else in the world, they still have a different perception of the world because they got schooling in their early years somewhere else. Ethiopia. Okay. So you get what I'm saying? Our parents don't have the same schooling that we have if we are a certain age. They changed the curriculum. So at some point, schools, right, were breathing a lot of revolutionaries here, right? Which is why you've seen a lot of movements in the 50s, 60s, 70s, right? Because the curriculum was a certain way. People had knowledge of self. People had freedom schools. There was a lot of things that were going on that contributed to the upliftment of the community. Now, once they started to realize that these schools or whatever was going on, the first thing they realized, integration was a way to control what we had going on, right? So that was a plan. Um, and because now it went from having segregated schools where you could teach certain things to now you giving up all your power to the structure, right? Once you get integrated. But you're right, traditions, right? A lot of traditions, the elders, a lot of things happen. Um, so I want to get back to, because you asked me a question. So like Malcolm X said, first you got to change your ideology, and then once you change it, you could change your ideology. Then you could change your attitude. Once your attitude changes, right? Like think about this: the people that come to this country from outside, the YNs, you funny. Yes, the elders are afraid nowadays, right? There's no, but it's the parents also, right? Like a lot of parents are not parenting. A lot of these young people are growing up, they're iPad babies, right? They grew up in a time where parents just give their children the iPads and then they don't teach them values. They don't teach them morals. They don't teach them discipline. They don't do none of those things, right? They're barely even parenting, if you want to be honest, right? A lot of times the parents are cursing in front of their kids. They talking crazy. I see parents, I see mothers talk crazy to their children all the time, right? So when those children grow up, a lot of times they don't respect their parents. Their parents never taught them how to be respectful. They never said respect your elders. They never said, a lot of these parents are ratchet, honestly. And a lot of these children are being raised by single mothers, right? But that's a whole nother conversation. But nevertheless, they're ratchet mothers because just because you're raised by a single mother doesn't mean that your mother can't teach you values and respect, right? So the issue is that's what's going on. Anyway, I want to get back to what I was saying. So Malcolm X said this a long time ago. First, you got to change your ideologies, the way you think about not just yourself, right? Your people, the world, etc. Because once you change your ideas of the world, or your people or whatever, then you're gonna have a different attitude towards it, right? Um, it's just like, at one point in time, there was a certain ideology that was going around about black people, right? um or black people being dumb or being stupid or like not knowing African people not being able to navigate the seas, right? So that's an ideology. That was a narrative that was out there, right? Like when they tell us African people got to the Americas in slave ships, that's an ideology. That is a narrative that they have taught us, that they have fed us, when the truth is African people was in the Americas way before the Europeans, right? So once you start to really change your ideology, you start to look at your people different. You no longer look at those, we used to see videos back in the days. Oh, just for 10 cents a day, you can feed a starving child in Africa, right? We used to see these videos of how they depicted Africa in these commercials. So we didn't want to be associated with Africa. That's so true, right? Like nowadays, the punishment, right? Go inside now. You don't go inside. These kids, like you see them. So, so what I was trying to say is that there used to be a narrative, again, through the television, to imagery, that was giving us a certain ideology of like Africa is poor, right? Africa is starving. Africa needs help. Africa, all these negative depictions. So we didn't want to be associated with Africa, right? We started coming up with terms like African booty scratcher and talking crazy about like people who were not from here, right? But this is all because of the ideology that they taught us. So once you start to change your ideology, once you start to change your narrative and you start to realize like Africa is not what they told us it is. Like there's a bunch of beautiful places in Africa, right? There's a lot of raw material. There's a lot of resources. There's a lot of things that they've been stealing from Africa. Now you start to look at Africa different because you have changed your ideology. You got a different understanding, right? So now it gives you a different attitude towards African people when you see African people. So that's the point. He was saying first you change your ideology, then you change your attitude, then you change hold on. Then you because he said once you change your mindset, right? Then it would change your attitude, right? Then it would change your thoughts. And then it would change your behavior, and then you could change your actions, right? So there's a process of how the moment you change your philosophy, right? Everything else will fall into place. But first, you got to change your philosophy. But if you keep getting all your information from one place, it's going to be very hard for you to change your philosophy. Um, Sorry about that. So yeah, I said once you change your philosophy, you change your thought pattern. Sorry, I said it the wrong way. Um, then you change your attitude. Then it changes your behavior pattern, and then you could go about some action. So you asked me earlier, how do you change these things, Asha? And that's how you do it. You got to do a lot of deep brain work. which a lot of people unfortunately struggle with, right? I made some videos some time ago speaking about um like the must read books for black people. Um yes, too black and white. Also it depends where you getting your information from, right? Um so and some people they don't want to read, they refuse to read from certain people. So like me, I'm always reading. Um I read from anybody. Like I got some, if you look at some books back there, I got propaganda, I got Notes on the State of Virginia, Black Rage. Black Rage was definitely a great book. Matter of fact, I don't even gotta go on my bookshelf. I'm gonna just tell you some of the books. If you look right there, it says Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. That was a great book. That is a must read. I think all black folks should read that book. They should read Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. You're gonna get a lot of information out of it. It's not a very long book. It's short. Well, it's like 200 pages. That might be long for some people, but it's a great book. Um, what else is there? There is Black Rage. I think Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome, Black Rage. That's another book that is great. Um, I have some other books that are not up there that I want to talk about. Um, and I want to highlight. They can't bear to think they might be a bad person. Yes, that is so true. A lot of people think they're good people, and in reality, they really not. Right? But you can't tell them that. Hold on, let me see something real quick. Let me see. Okay, so this book right here, great book. Black Liberation and Socialism. That is a great book. A lot of black people think that capitalism is going to set them free when it's not. And I don't want to get too deep and too drawn into that because I want people, the main thing that people got to change in order to get out the cycle is their mind. This book, I'm telling you, this book basically states that if a person thinks about themselves in a low manner, like if they think they're like destined to be oppressed or like constantly oppressed, no matter what they do, there's always something out there against them. Then it says that you will squander any opportunity that is presented to yourself because in your mind, you already believe that you are meant to be oppressed. And this is something that a lot of our peoples in this country is constantly talking about. You realize how somebody can come from a different country here and make it, but yet the people that are born here, the black folks, they're still at the bottom of the totem pole. They don't change. Their brain has been programmed, not just by the schooling that they're receiving, it's also in the DNA of their ancestors, right? Intergenerational trauma, right? Also historical trauma, which is what the book Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome speaks about, which is why I encourage every person to every black person should read it. Revolutionary Suicide, great book. Huey P. Newton, co-founder of the Black Panther Party. This was a great book. He basically said, you already gonna die. He spoke about reactionary suicide and a revolutionary suicide. So he said, look, they're already killing you slowly. They're already poisoning your water, your food, poisoning your mind. Um, they making you sick. Then they selling you medication. He basically was saying they're already slowly getting rid of us, right? Some of us they kill outright through their state violence. Some of us they kill us a little slower. He's saying, so why would you sit around and just wait for them to get rid of you when you can fight knowing that you're still gonna end up the same way? So he talked about reactionary suicide and revolutionary suicide. And he's only calling it suicide not because he's going to kill himself, because it's already going to happen, but he's just saying that you're still going to meet this, but knowing that you're going to meet this is almost like suicide. You get what I'm saying? Like knowing that you're fighting against the state, or you are living your life um not surrendering to them, you're going to end up the same way. Um Hold on. This much is what message is this? Gotta face the oppressor. Yes. So sorry, I couldn't see the messages. Hold on. Do I got a moderator here? No, I don't. Yes. So he basically was talking about those things, right? Capture thoughts by Imam Ibn al-Jawzi. Oh, that sounds like a book, a good one. Capture thoughts by Imam Ibn al-Jawzi. I will look into it. So they don't think at all. Okay, so sorry, I was just reading the comments. So yes, so this book is great. It should definitely be something that our folks should read. This too, because it highlights how capitalism. See, people be thinking that white people enslaved African people because they just didn't like black people or African people. That's not the case. They enslaved African people because they were the most durable slave. They were the most durable slave. See, people be having a hard time uh understanding that, right? Hold on real quick. They have a hard time understanding that it's chess, not checkers. This is about business. That's what it's about. It's not about nothing else. Like, it's not about because I don't like you. See, people be thinking small. They just be like, oh, they just don't like me because I'm black. No, man. This is about business. It's about capital. You know, yes, they were the most durable slave. Listen, Thomas Jefferson talks about that in this book, Notes on the State of Virginia. Okay? See, but this is what I'm saying. All this stuff is in books. We can go out there and read it, but people don't read. They spend most of their time. You know what's so interesting? You you used to be killed. You could possibly be killed for trying to read or learn how to read during those times. And then today, that people have the ability to go out there and seek information and read, they won't even read. It's so shameful and sad. But anyway, Notes on the State of Virginia by Thomas Jefferson. It gives you a lot of jewels. This book changed my life too. It changed my life. But anyway, these books kind of like they go kind of like hand in hand. But anyway, the point is, they're saying under capitalism, you're not going to be free ever, ever, because you are viewed as property. You are viewed as what helped them make profit, right? Which is profit over people. This is like with this whole system that we're under. This is why we still at the bottom of the bottom. They will never forgive the fact that the slaves been freed, and they not really freed. Why? Because black people make most of the cheap labor force. Well, you know, also immigrants, right? Because you know they could pay immigrants cheaper labor or whatever, right? But between those people and black people, they at the bottom of the bottom, still making the money. Exactly. They lay back and get paid. It's still the same thing. It's the illusion of freedom that we have today. We still the main people getting earning the less wages, right? We still at the bottom because capitalism creates a social caste system. And in the caste system, somebody got to be at the bottom and somebody got to be at the top. So part of the reason that people come here and they're able to do something, because those people, they have a different ideology. They got a different philosophy, right? They don't have, like, a lot of our people have this entitlement to them, right? They have this idea of like America owes them something. When you feel like somebody owes you something, you're going to behave differently than somebody who feels like they're grateful for being here. Again, mindset, your brain, the way you think about certain things. So what I be trying to tell people, you got to change your mindset. You can't move. Your limbs are not going to move in the direction that they should be moving unless you change the way you think. Feelings are supposed to help you identify an area of potential growth. After expulsions. Yes, they skip the process. Dude, you've been radicalized by the Democrat. Radicalized? What are you talking about? Democratic Party. See, we got another fool in the building, y'all. Democratic Party. Bro, they're two birds to the same stone. See, this is another problem that the black people have. They sit here, and I'm not saying this person is black, but this is another thing they have us bickering about. Parties, two-party system, right? This is why the Panther Party was trying to break away from just their two-party system, period, right? Like, this is what I'm trying to tell you. People don't read enough. You don't read enough. So people don't be reading enough, man. This is what I'm saying, man. Look, see, it's a lot of people, right? They just be talking. This, remember I said this earlier, right? That people just be talking. I said this to you, Asha, earlier. Oh, I seen Kai the other day. We was on live on Instagram. I posted it here. She was over here. What I was gonna say, anyway, traumatized folks, the body keeps the score. Go out there and read Brain, Mind, and Body and the Healing of Trauma. Come on, man. A lot of people got problems, man, and they don't even know they got problems. And then you got the your DNA transmits messages from the past. So you have what is historical trauma, you have generational trauma, and then you have recurrent trauma, things that happen to you on the day-to-day basis, right? And if you don't understand how it's impacting your brain and the way you think, your mind, and the way it makes you feel in your body, there's a study that was done and how black people, even if they're not doing anything wrong, when they hear sirens, they panic. Their body tenses up, right? They feel nervous, even if they're not doing anything wrong, right? This is a trauma response that a lot of people don't even know why they are responding that way. So it's very important you do the work. Black against Empire, the history and politics of the Black Panther Party. We have to get away from this two-party system that is not for our benefit. You people sit around here, exactly, our gut is definitely constantly under attack. You people sit here and argue about Democrat and Republican, and they both are not on your side. And they distract you, and they have you thinking one is for you and the other one is not. And if you really think about it, if you look at all the policies in the last maybe 100 years that have helped black people, they were done by the Republican Party. But you guys that have been brainwashed by the Democrats, right? Y'all the real, not the people here, but the people out there that have this toxic relationship with the Democratic Party that think the Democrats, the Dixiecrat, like Malcolm X used to say, right? Got your best interest. You guys got to be kidding me. Anyway, I don't want to get into those type of politics because a lot of people don't even know how politics work, and they just have an opinion based on ignorance. So anyway, another good book, Schooling in Capitalist America, right? Educational reform and the contradictions of economic life. Knowledge is power, man. Knowledge is though the information is out there. You know, I bought these books in my school for 50 cents. I think it was like 50 cents in my school. They was getting rid of these books. 50 cents. 50 cents. 50 cents. You know, 50 cents, man. Crazy. 50 cents. And just in case you ain't see it before, Who Profits When Black Man Gangbang, man? By Abdul Hadi. Who profits? Now let me stop. I'm just my shot. But now to be real though, man, I think must reads. Hold on. Let me get the other book. Uh, I just think you know but yeah, Black Rage. This is a great book, man. This book just highlights how black people just be angry, man. And it's not that they angry for no reason, but they be angry. And again, I told you DNA transmits messages, right? So you have the blood of your ancestors. You got the blood of your people. You got the blood of a people that were angry for a reason, right? So again, back to must reads for black people. You definitely should read this book, Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Um, it's gonna highlight certain things about why black people respond a certain way to certain things and like what's going on. This is about the study of epigenetics. Before you could heal something, you got to figure out why you even doing the things that you do, why you even responding in certain ways, why you know you engage with your people in a certain manner, your family, your peers, whatever. You have to know. You can't heal without understanding like what's going on. You get what I'm saying? So um yeah, this is a great book. Must read. Study of epigenetics is not super new, but it's a new science of like um they also address how like there are a certain group of people who have endured a lot of like trauma and scarring in their tissue um that has kind of like altered their DNA in a sense. So they spoke about Native American folks, they spoke about Jewish people, and they spoke about African American people, right? And what they found is that all three of those groups have something in common, right? Like they went through these gruesome periods um, throughout some generations, or just yeah, or just whatever, so whatever, however many amount of years, things was happening to Jewish folks. But we know the Native Americans went through a lot throughout a long period of time, and also African folks, right? Um, Abandonment gives children anger issues. Okay, that could be a thing too. Um, but also some children already carry certain things in their DNA that sometimes we don't even know, right? Sometimes something could skip you and land on your child, right? So, and that's just the interesting thing about like when we talking about DNA and epigenetics and RNA and all of these different biological terms that sometimes we don't have you can't anticipate. It's not like it's no clear cut um way of anticipating like how your child is going to come out, or even if it matters like how what you teach him, right? Like you can do your best, and sometimes you just don't know what's wrong with them, right? Because the messaging that they might have received that bypassed you and landed on them. So it's very interesting. But anyway, Black Rage, must read. Just speaks to the rage that some of our people feel. It even talked about like the inherent rage. It gave examples of like some black people feeling inherent rage towards white people, even though they never had any negative encounters with white people, right? So they didn't even understand why they were so upset at them. And it speaks about other things. Very interesting. But these books go kind of like together, hand in hand. Um, this is just more about like, this is you gotta have like the mind to really understand this. You some people are not ready for this. But I suggest, like, if you really want to understand, it's not about race. The issues that's going on is not about race. See, everybody think it's about race. Race is a byproduct of capitalism. Okay? Race is a byproduct of capitalism. Try to tell people. Race is a byproduct of capitalism. Okay? You can't have one without the other. So, and race is a made-up construct, okay? It's all about nations and tribes. Yes, perceived neglect too. Yup. So anyway, it's only nations and tribes, okay? Race was just another byproduct to keep people divided and boxing themselves. Today, we have more things to divide ourselves, right? Today we going hard on gender, we going hard on sexuality, we going hard on ethnicity, they have always just figured out ways for us to keep ourselves divided. Anyway, but like I said, black rage, post-traumatic slave syndrome, must read. Black rage. You should definitely read Psycho-Cybernetics to get your mind right. Revolutionary Suicide, great book. It's a must read too. And then once you figure these two things out, once you figure out why you be tripping on your own people, why you be mad at them, why it be so easy for you to try to do something to them, once you get this shit out your heart, that hatred that you have for your own people, when you walk down the block, you look at them a certain way, you act like they the ones that got you in the conditions that you in, you act like it's their fault, you want to, if you don't got money, you want to kick they door in, or you want to just constantly do stuff to your people. Once you figure it yourself out, then you start working on your brain, man. Start working on your brain. And once you start working on your brain, you got to reprogram yourself. And part of the reprogramming, you put some of these things in your mind. How do you live for your community? How do you live for your people? Okay? How do you become a revolutionary? Right? And once you do that, hold on, let me so you do all of that, right? So boom. At the same time, then you got to protect your brain. Once you start to reprogram your brain, okay? Once you start to read your brain is a computer. Cybernetics, brain, computer. Psycho, cybernetics. You can reprogram your brain. Once you reprogram your brain, you got to start feeding it something good. It's like changing your diet. Your diet was poor at one point. Now you got to change your diet. Once you recognize what was going on and why you was moving the way you was moving, and if you want to further heal the issues you was having, then the body keeps the score. You got to get rid of that trauma, man. We got to get rid of them toxins that we got in our body that make us move the way we move, that make us distrust our own people, that make us want to flip out, that make us want to live in fight or flight all the time, right? Like we constantly guarded, we constantly don't trust, we constantly afraid, we constantly, yes, until veggies taste nasty. Not if you season them right. How can I reboot my brain? You gotta first you gotta figure out what happened to you. So you got to read some historical things. I read a lot of psychology stuff. So like I mentioned, I said black rage. I mean, if you black, depends. It depends where you from. It's just you just got to read. For black people, I'll tell them read Black Rage and Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome. But for somebody regular, I mean, you could just read The Body Keeps the Score, like to kind of like just try to figure out if you might be dealing with some of those issues that I mentioned, right? So I said like psycho-cybernetics, it will teach you how to reprogram your brain, right? It will teach you that your brain is a computer and it's a supercomputer, right? Um, and the same way a computer has programming, your brain has programming too, and you could reprogram it. Okay. Okay, cool. So even your people, right? Y'all got your own history, right? Indigenous history. Hawaiian people went through things at the hands of the American people. The Mexican people went through things too at the hands of the American people, right? So there's a lot of history too, right? There maybe is certain things. So sometimes you got to tap into your history. You got to tap into like what happened in the past. You know, there's a saying, to know where you headed, you got to know where you've been. So sometimes today we respond to certain things, and the way we do things is because whatever messages is being transmitted through our DNA that our ancestors went through, um, is a thing that kind of like lives within us, right? Um, like I said, sometimes we don't know. Um, for example, uh, my people, for example, sorry. For example, my people are Garifuna, right? So I had to go learn about my people. I had to learn about the Black Caribs. This is where my people are Garifuna, right? So this is a book about the Black Carib Wars, freedom, survival, and the making of the Garifuna. So I had to go out there and learn about my people, right? My people were exiled from St. Vincent in 1797. So I had to go learn about who my people were, right? Like, who is my tribe? Like, what were they about? Like, so everybody gotta go back in the past to learn about they folks. Um, and hopefully that will help you propel you forward to the future. So yeah, once you do that, once you learn your history and your people and you know, peace. So once you learn about your people and your history, right? Because that's the DNA that you carry, right? Then it gives you a sense of like, okay, cool, this is who my people were, right? And then once you do that, um, it gives you a more understanding of who you are, right? It gives you a little more clarity. Might not be fully clear, but at least you know, like, all right, this is who my people were, or like this is where they came from, or this is like what they was about. And then again, like I said, you gotta tap into the power of your subconscious mind. A lot of the stuff, for example, right here, it talks about the self image. The self image, like I mentioned, they taught us over here negative things about Africa, right? To the point where we didn't even want to be associated with being African, right? We hated it. We despised them, right? And in turn, right, they did the same thing with the Africans, right? They fed them a certain narrative, certain stories. So when by the time the Africans get here, they already have their mindset about the black people here. So this is how you keep the people with friction amongst themselves, right? Social media keeps us separate too. Our elders still go to town hall meetings. Yep. We need to meet them there and learn something. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, people don't want to be talking to the elderly, right? They don't. Again, we are disconnected from our history. No, I wouldn't recommend the DNA test. It's not really gonna do much. You need to, cause think about it. You're gonna go to a lab, give them your blood, and then they're gonna tell you you're 5% this, 25% that, 50% that, and then what? And then what? There you what? You just gonna show up to Hawaii and be like, hey, I had a test, and it said my family from over here. They're just gonna be looking at you. They're just gonna be looking at you, or like, you get what I'm saying? So I think that, like, you start with your parents, right? You ask your parents things about your ancestry, right? If your grandparents is alive, try to talk to your grandparents. My great grandmother is 101. You know, I'm fortunate that she is that old. I know a lot of people that's not the case for them, but again, at least I knew a little bit, right? I had like a little bit of starting point. Um, I think that like, and then you go from there, right? Family, you might have some cousins, right? Like maybe it don't come from your mom, but you know, you listen to your mom's story, you listen to your dad. If your grandparents are alive, you try to get some information from them. Sometimes if you can go to Hawaii, if you live, hey, if you got family in Hawaii and you know you can pinpoint them, then sometimes it's good to even do that, or Mexico, right? Like, so it's just about trying to like just get a sense of like who your people is and like what's your family history and their ties and like certain things. So it could give you identity, self-image. When you don't have no identity, anybody can tell you who you're supposed to be. Anybody can tell you who you are. Anybody can pull you either way because you don't know who you are. And so many people don't know who they are. And this is why a lot of black folks are suffering. And it's not their fault. They just don't know who they are. They've been stripped of that. And when you've been stripped of that, it was done strategically. So anyway, um uh yes, parents do be hiding themselves in their history, but some parents also don't know. Depending on where you're from though, but some parents don't think it's important, you know. But it's funny because the African people that come here and the Haitian people and the other people, they teach their children their language, right? They teach their children their history, like because they don't want them to get lost, right? Um, so what I was gonna say, tribes, right? You gotta find who your tribe is. Your tribe is not necessarily your family. I must say this again. Your tribe is not necessarily your family. It's not necessarily the people that have your DNA, but it's more so the people that you are going to journey with in this life. That's who your tribe is. You got to find your tribe. You will not survive in this world if you do not have a tribe. You understand me? I hope y'all understand me. You will not survive in this cold world if you do not find your tribe. And your tribe is not necessarily your family. Make sure you remember that. Find your tribe. Okay? So your tribe is going to be the people that support you. It's going to be the people that influence you to do the right thing. It's going to be the people that hold you accountable. It's going to be the people that, you know, is going to ride with you. They're going to advise you. They're going to like protect you. They're going to, you know, you're going to know who your tribe is when you meet them. You know them. Yes, I get it. Sometimes, even in the masjid, you're gonna show up to the masjid, and some brothers are gonna gravitate towards you. We all kind of like go through that, right? We go to the masjid, and there's some people there, who we just might not get along with, or not even get along. We just don't see eye to eye. We can't relate to them, or you know, because everybody be practicing how they want to practice, right? If we was practicing Islam to the T, then we wouldn't be looking at what ethnicity you from. We wouldn't be looking at some of the things that people be looking at, right? Like if we really practice like we were supposed to practice, like the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to practice, we wouldn't be having these tribal weird issues that we be having. And it's unfortunate, but the most we can do is educate ourselves on like how the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted us to do things, and try to educate the ignorant brothers when we meet them, right? When we encounter them, we just gotta educate them. So the laws of human nature. Once you already find out about your people something, worked on your brain somewhat, trying to reprogram it, then you gotta feed stuff to it, like I mentioned. And part of feeding stuff to it is just a lot of things to rebuild your mind, right? Um, and all right, it says, do you think information needs to be taught or just used to influence people to make better choices, even if they don't have full understanding? It depends. I think that like some information needs to be taught. I think that like some races. I mean, that's funny. You talked about the racist Yemenis, man. I don't know, man. The Yemenis, to me, the Yemenis, they have been someone like one of my closest brothers was a Yemeni. And don't get me wrong, he tried to, you know what's so funny? He tried to marry me to his sister, and another Yemeni brother told him like, why would you marry him to your sister? He not an Arab. So I can understand what where you coming from, right? And it's unfortunate. Um and the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he spoke about this, right? He knew that these things would come, um, which is why he advised them, because they were all Arabs at that time, right? He advised them, to like the Arab is not better than the non-Arab, and the non-Arab is not better than the Arab, right? Like he gave these things because he knew what was going to happen, right? He said the black is not better than the white, and the white is not better than the black. But again, like I said, when we don't adhere to what we supposed to adhere, we're gonna have fitna and we're gonna have problems. To your question, Supreme, I do think information needs to be taught. Some information, um, some information you can read. Um, I don't think it hurts to have a coach or have a mentor, have somebody that take you under the wing, to help us understand things. Um, you know, it doesn't hurt to have somebody that can kind of like, you know, just help us understand certain things. But we got to do our due diligence. The Laws of Human Nature, great book. See, but this is after you already, again, these are some of the things after you already worked on your brain and you already like are working on to, and mind you, I'm not trying to tell you that like you're just gonna read a book and all of a sudden you're gonna be healed and you are going to be this person that is just like clean slate. No, that's just not how things work, right? Like healing is a constant thing, right? It's a habitual thing. Things are gonna come up from time to time. As you're on your journey, some days you're gonna have your body, because your body keeps the score. Your body keeps the score, right? And it takes time to reprogram your brain, right? We've been programmed for a long time to behave in the ways we've been programmed a long time to behave the way that we've been behaving. So it's gonna take a long time, right? Like they had us since we were children, influencing us and putting this poison into our minds. So it's gonna take us some time. Some people it's gonna take them less time than others, because some people they got educated at home. They receive certain things. But the point I was trying to make, like once you're already on your journey, once you're already hip to the propaganda, so you're staying away of the propaganda that they trying to feed you out there through the television and the media and all of those things, right? Once you realize that there's six media companies, there's six companies that own all of our media. Disney, what is the other ones? Viacom, Sony, I think. I forget the medias. But once you start to realize that six major companies own all of our media, and they're mainly run by a certain ethnic group, they control what we see. They control what we hear. The people that control the record labels, they control what we hear. They control the newspapers. They control the programming on your cable vision. Come on, man. They controlling damn near everything. But you know what they don't control? You can go to the bookstore and get books. You can go to the bookstore. I'm so glad that they don't control that stuff. Right? Which they probably should. But they know that a lot of us is not gonna go read it. Right? If they control that, then they gotta give the illusion of free, right? The illusion of freedom, the illusion of democratic, you know, exactly, as in the book. They control a lot of things, right? Um, so Anyway, exactly, they do that through the algorithms, right? The algorithms, every once in a while they trying to slip something in there and feed you something so that you can get distracted from. You know how many times I go on my phone and I might be trying to look for something, and they'll try to slip something in there that can distract me from what I'm trying to do. They know what they be doing. But like I said, once you already have like a foundation of your self-image, then you can start engaging in other things. Then you can start. Your self-image is the most important thing. If you don't know who you are, you're lost in this world, and somebody else is going to tell you who you should be. You know how many times in college I seen students go there and they didn't know what the BBL as word. They be, yo, on Instagram, they be trying to, mind you, I don't like pictures of Instagram models and or none of that stuff, but they always try to slip. And now what they try to do is they try to slip these women with the workout clothes. So sometimes I be looking at like some workout stuff from men, and so they try to slip in some workout stuff with the girls with the tight pants on, with the pants all up in their crack. And I'm just like, bro, like, but this is the setup, right? So I just be clicking not interested, or that I don't like it, or that I don't want to see it, or whatever. But like I'm telling you, man, they trying to get you all the time. Anyway, once you improve your self image, right? Um, this the basis, which is why it's the first on the list here, and on your way to the power of your subconscious mind. So our subconscious mind, a lot of the things that we do is second nature, right? Power of the subconscious mind. We don't even be conscient that we are doing certain things. We don't. That's how deep it is. We don't even be mindful that we are doing certain things. So, like I said, once you get your self image and once you realize what you was doing and you're trying to change it, you can feed your brain other things. Like I love this book, The Law of Human Nature. You know, we're all animals. And this is just gonna teach you about human nature, right? Like, regardless of what, like we cannot get away from human nature, right? We cannot get away from survival. We cannot get away from the mechanisms that we are wired to engage in biologically, right? It's just a human nature thing. Like, right? For example, survival, right? Is a human nature mechanism. Like we want to ensure our survival, right? Food, clothing, shelter, right? Like that's like a instinctual survival thing, right? Anyway, this book is great, man. It gives you some laws of just how to understand people, right? Like sometimes you can't even be upset at people. Once you really understand the psychology of why people behave the way they behave and why they do the things that they do, you can't even really be mad at them. I swear. It's hard to be mad at somebody that you know it's not really their fault why they behaving in the way that they're behaving. Some people are behaving the way that they're behaving because it's human nature, right? Other people are behaving the way that they're behaving because they've been abused, misused, traumatized. So it's a lot of reasons why people uh, are doing the things that they do to you, and it's not personal. You know, that's one of the four agreements. Um, you know, don't take things personal, man. You can't take things personal. Um, Another book that is good, but like I said, once you already worked on some of these things, the grounding, because you got to be grounded. You can't build a house on unstable ground. Um, you can't build a house by. All right, I will look at that. I will look at that book by Ibn al-Jawzi. Thank you, I appreciate it. So once this is a book on communication, that's not what I meant. This is a great book, How Conversation Style Makes or Breaks Relationships. A lot of times we get into problems with people because we don't know how to talk to people. And a lot of times we assume what people mean. And this is like the main gist of the book. That's not what I meant. When we hear somebody say something, we assume what they mean without asking questions. And then what happens is, after we make that assumption, it leads to arguments, it leads to fights, it leads to like, I'm never talking to you again. Like it just leads to a lot of like those kind of like responses and reactions because we never asked the question, and by the time things, things just be getting out of hand. Um, what else I was gonna say? So your brother is, yeah, sometimes, but sometimes people do mean to hurt your feelings. This book is more so like sometimes because we are traumatized and we have our own problems and we are triggered by certain words. When we hear them, we automatically assume the worst. Like, we do that as humans, right? Like, the laws of human nature talk about like how we assume the worst and we become defensive automatically without even really yes, so we have to take control. We have to take control of ourselves and our response, right? That's the only thing we control. So look, right here, this is another great book, Thinking Rich. So again, this is also has to do with the subconscious mind, but this is more about finances. Um, so right here um, it says mind control is the result of self-discipline and habit. You either control your mind or it controls you. There's no halfway compromise. You see? So another thing, damn, my boy called me mad late. I don't know what he wanted. I hope he wasn't trying to hang out this late. But see these things, these are the 55 famous alibis, right? So people who do not succeed have one distinguishing trait in common. They know all the reasons for failure and have they said they know all the reasons for failure and have what they believe to be airtight alibis to explain away their own lack of achievement, right? So again, this goes back, this is how I started this video, talking about the excuses. you know uh this is the excuses that people make. I started this video like this. So these are 55 alibis that people tell themselves when they don't succeed. I'm gonna read some of them. It says, if only I didn't have a wife and a family. If only I had enough pool. If only I had money. If only I had a good education. If only I could get a job. If only I had good health. If only I had time. If only times were better. If only other people understood me. If only conditions around me were different. If only I could live my life over again. If only I did not fear what they would say. If only I had been given a chance. See, this is just an example of a lot of things that hinder people, right, from really breaking through and achieving what they need to achieve, right? Excuses, alibis. And some of these things they really believe deep down in their heart. If only, all right, then it says, if only I had been given a chance. If only I now had a chance. If only other people didn't have it in for me. If only nothing happened to stop me. If only I were younger. If only I could do what I want. If only I had been born rich. If only I could meet the right people. See, this is just, I don't feel like reading all of them. But this is just an example that people, right, they always constantly make excuses. I highlighted some of them that I felt like might have applied to me. If only I didn't have so many worries. Did I apply? There's another one. If only I didn't have a past. If only I live in a different neighborhood. If only I hadn't lost my money. Right? So these are just examples of the excuses that people make. It says the first and best victory is to conquer self. Right? So like I was saying, you gotta conquer yourself. You gotta work on your mindset, your philosophy, and things will change. It was a great surprise to me when I discovered that most of the ugliness I saw in others was but a reflection of my own nature. See? So the book, there goes the book, man. I feel like I've been here for a long time. I've been here for an hour and 20 minutes. I think it was a good chat. Uh, but like I was saying, we got the power, man. It's not gonna be easy, but we need to go back. We need to go back into. We gotta recapture our minds. It's the only way to really be free. Let me see what else. What other books I got? Yeah, we gotta. It's the only way to be free. We have to be diligent and like working on our brains. See, but first you gotta accept that they tamper with your mind, right? First you gotta accept. A lot of people, uh, they got this thing that is called the three universal self opinions. One is that everybody thinks they're a good person, right? Everybody thinks they're a good person. Everybody thinks they're smart in their own way. And everybody thinks that they're operating of their own free will. Remember that. Everybody thinks they're a good person. Everybody thinks they're smart in their own way. And everybody thinks they're operating from their own free will. And little do they know that damn near most of us, if not all, are only following a script. And that's the thing. We don't even know it. We don't even know we following a script. That this thing, this maze that we are living in, the script that has been designed, many won't even acknowledge that we're following a script. Because many don't know. Many don't know. They don't have no idea. So sad to be alive. And to not even really understand what's really going on in the world. That is crazy, man. You might as well not even be alive. If you're going to be a puppet, ain't that right? If you're going to be a puppet, what's the point of being alive? Don't make no sense. It just don't make no sense. And then I've been reading, and then, if you're a man, like I said, once you develop your self-image, you got to start pouring into it. You got to start reading other things. I just finished reading this book. Sorry. Just finished reading this book. It's called, I needed that water. It's called, I'm gonna die just now. They tried to take me out. Nah. But it's called, The Comprehensive, the man the moment demands. And it's basically a comprehensive guide to the characteristics to be it's the 10 characteristics of the comprehensive man. So it's just a book trying to help man become comprehensive men, right? Like it's a lot of false notions of masculinity and just a lot of things we gotta unpack once you like I said, once you unpack things in your mind, then becomes the process of like, why do I behave this way, right? And then you gotta reconstruct some things. Growing up, they told us to be a man meant this, to be a man meant that. Like, so there's a lot of things you gotta unpack. Once you become aware, now you gotta fill your mind with other things. But Let me know what y'all thoughts are, man. Make sure if y'all rocking with me, I subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned. I'm trying to revamp my channel, but y'all stay blessed, man, and y'all be safe, and y'all keep working on the brain. The brain's like your stomach. What you put in it affects your body. Okay? Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you soon. Peace.